3 weeks ago, a diagnostic lab ran cytokine panels on 48 patient samples. Every result came back 0, not low, not near the detection limit, 0, across all 48 wells.
Sample degradation would be my first suspicion. What were the storage conditions?
48 samples, 3 weeks of processing. Reagent costs alone, what? €800 before labor.
Could the plate reader have been broken?
I think it was the pipettes.
It is mildly improbable that 48 distinct biological samples all return the exact same value.
The plate reader was fine. The pipettes were calibrated. The samples were intact. They reran 3 of them on a different assay, and the cytokines were there. The problem was one line in their protocol. They used an anti-mouse HRP conjugated secondary antibody. Their primary was raised in rabbit.
The secondary never bound.
Never bound. Every single step was perfect. Coating, blocking, sample incubation, detection antibody, washing, textbook. Then they dropped in a secondary that had 0 affinity for anything in that well, added substrate, waited 15 minutes, and got beautiful clear wells reading 0 across a beautiful clear plate. 3 weeks of patient samples.
It is mildly elegant in a catastrophic way.
Here's why that's not a stupid mistake. It's an easy one. Because an ELISA is not one thing. It's a stack. Every layer depends on the one below it. You can execute 9 steps perfectly, introduce one species mismatch on step 10, and have nothing. Understanding the stack is the whole game. That's today.
ELISA, enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. The core principle is antibody-antigen binding made visible through enzymatic signal amplification. In a sandwich, ELISA, the most common format, you build 4 layers in a well. First, a capture antibody passively adsorbed to the plate surface. It grabs your target antigen out of the sample. Second, the antigen itself, bound to that capture antibody. Third, a detection antibody that recognizes a different epitope on the same antigen. The antigen is now sandwiched between 2 antibodies. Fourth, a secondary antibody conjugated to horseradish peroxidase, HRP, which binds the FC region of the detection antibody. When you add TMB substrate, HRP converts it to a blue chromogenic product. You stop the reaction with sulfuric acid, it turns yellow, and you read absorbance at 450 nanometers. More antigen in the well means more HRP, means more color, means higher OD.
That's it. 4 layers, 1 plate, 1 number out the other end. But each layer has failure modes, and almost all of them are invisible until you read the plate and get zeros.
Subscribe. 1 ELISA plate cost me €40 in reagents. This information is free. Do the maths.
Right? What you're working with. 96 well flat bottom plate, high binding polystyrene, not standard tissue culture plastic. You need the protein adhesive surface. They look identical. They are not identical. Check the label. Capture antibody, detection antibody, secondary antibody, HRP conjugate. Before you open anything, write the species for each antibody on a piece of paper and draw the chain. Capture raised in X, detected by anti-X secondary. If that chain has a gap, you have the 48-0 problem before you even start. Coating buffer. Carbonate bicarbonate, pH 9.6. This is what your capture antibody goes into. High pH drives passive adsorption of the antibody's hydrophobic regions onto the plate surface. Do not substitute PBS here and wonder why your coating is uneven. Blocking buffer. 5% BSA or non-fat dry milk and PBST, your choice, but not an unconstrained choice.
I use milk. It's cheaper.
What detection system are you running?
The streptavid and biotin one.
No, stop. Yes, that is the exact problem I just described, but different.
Milk contains casein, and casein is a biotin-binding protein. If your assay uses streptavidin to capture a biotin-conjugated detection antibody, The free biotin in milk will saturate your streptavidin before your detection antibody ever arrives. You are blocking your own signal with your blocking agent.
It is mildly counterintuitive that the blocking solution can block the assay itself. Yeah.
BSA for biotin streptavidin systems. Always. Milk is fine for everything else. Know which you're running. TMB substrate. Keep it in the dark. It photooxidizes. If the substrate is faintly blue before you add it to the wells, it's partially consumed. Your signal ceiling just dropped and your blanks will drift up.
TMB itself is inexpensive. The kit it arrives in is not. Compromised substrate means reprinting the kit insert and reordering. That delay costs more than the reagent.
Stop solution, typically 1 to 2 molar sulfuric acid. Have it ready on the bench before you touch the substrate. You're timing substrate incubation from the first well you fill. By the time you reach well H12, you're already 2 or 3 minutes in. You stop immediately. You don't go looking for the bottle. Plate reader capable of 450 nanometers. If you're not subtracting a reference wavelength at 620 nanometers for background correction, you're reading optical noise as signal. It's a one-click setting in every plate reader software. People skip it constantly. Don't. Step 1. Coat the plate. Dilute your capture antibody in carbonate bicarbonate buffer. Your datasheet gives the concentration, typically 1 to 4 micrograms per milliliter. Add 100 microliters per well. Seal the plate with film. 4 degrees Celsius. Overnight.
Passive adsorption at high pH allows the hydrophobic regions of the antibody to anchor to the polystyrene surface through non-covalent interactions. Coating at 4 degrees reduces evaporation, extends the incubation window, and protects the protein from thermal degradation during the overnight step.
I did mine at room temperature. It was only 8 hours.
Did it work?
The standards looked okay.
Your standards always look okay until you have something to compare them against. Room temperature coating gives you uneven adsorption. The wells dry at the edges first. Protein concentrates there. The center is undercoated. Your well-to-well variation just became your biggest source of error, and your standard curve absorbed it.
At elevated temperatures, partial denaturation of the capture antibody can expose the antigen-binding domain to the polystyrene surface. When that domain adsorbs to the plastic, it is no longer available to capture antigen from the sample. You get wells that appear coated but have functionally compromised binding capacity. 4 degrees is not arbitrary. It's the difference between reproducible coating and a plate that gives you irreproducible replicates.
Step 2. Wash. 3 times PBST. That's PBS plus 0.05% tween and a wench. 250 microliters per wash. Aspirate completely. Invert the plates. Tap firmly on absorbent paper. You're removing unbound capture antibody and anything loosely stuck to the surface. This step is not interesting. Do it anyway. Step 3. Block. 200 microliters of blocking buffer per well. Room temperature 1 hour. Plate covered. You are saturating every exposed protein binding site on the polystyrene that your capture antibody did not occupy. Every site you don't block is a site where your detection antibody will stick non-specifically and generate background.
Non-specific protein adsorption to the polystyrene surface follows the same mechanism as capture antibody coating. Without blocking, any protein added in subsequent steps, detection antibody, secondary, even albumin from your serum samples, can adsorb directly to the plate. This elevates your background uniformly and compresses the signal-to-noise ratio, particularly at the low end of your detection range.
Step 4. Wash 3 times again. Then add your samples and standards. This is where you earn your data. Serial dilution standard curve, 8 to 10 points, plus at least 2 blanks. If you're not running a full standard curve on every single plate, the number you read at 450 nanometers means nothing. You have no concentration. You have an absorbance value.
The standard curve also serves as your internal quality control for that run. Plate-to-plate variation in coating efficiency, blocking completeness, and incubation temperature means that the same sample will produce different absolute OD values on different days. The only interpretable unit is concentration derived from that plate's own standard curve. Comparing raw OD values between experiments is not valid analysis.
8 standard curve wells on a 96-well plate. That's roughly 10% of your capacity gone before you pipette a single sample. Plan your plate layout before you start, not after you run out of room.
Incubate your samples 2 hours at room temperature, or overnight at 4. Seal the plate, not optional. Evaporation from the edge wells creates the ring of death. Every well on the perimeter reads differently from the interior, because the sample concentration drifted upward as the volume dropped. Film every time. Wash 4 times. You've got real sample matrix in those wells, and you're removing everything that didn't bind to your capture antibody. Step 5, detection antibody. Dilute to your working concentration, 100 microliters per well, 1 hour room temperature. Then wash 4 times. Step 6, secondary antibody, HRP conjugated. 1 hour room temperature. And this is the step where you write the species on a sticky note if you have to. Anti-rabbit, anti-mouse, anti-goat. Whatever host your detection antibody was raised in, that is the secondary you use. The species of your target antigen is irrelevant here. The species of the detection antibody is everything.
It is mildly avoidable that the leading cause of complete ELISA failure is a mislabeled secondary antibody.
Wash 5 times. Every unbound secondary antibody molecule in that well is HRP conjugated and will react with your substrate. You're washing out noise. 5 times is not excessive.
I did 4 washes on the secondary.
On that last step,
Yes.
so your blank wells have background signal from free HRP that didn't come off. Your detection limit just moved. Everything near the bottom of your standard curve is now ambiguous.
Residual HRP conjugated secondary antibody in solution generates TMB signal identically to bound antibody. The enzyme does not distinguish between bound and free states. Each unbound secondary molecule that remains in the well after insufficient washing reacts with substrate and produces color. 4 washes versus 5 can shift background OD by 0.1 to 0.3 units, which eliminates sensitivity precisely in the concentration range where most biologically relevant samples sit. Wash stringency at the secondary step is not optional.
Step 7, TMB substrate. 100 microliters per well. Start timing from well A1. The incubation is not a fixed time. You are watching for color development. Stop when you have a visible gradient from your highest standard to your lowest, before the top standard saturates. Saturation means your curve goes flat at the top, and you lose the ability to quantify anything in that range. Watch it. Add stop solution in the same order you added substrate. Read within 30 minutes of stopping. The yellow color drifts.
A well-run sandwich, ELISA produces a sigmoidal standard curve when you plot OD450 on the y-axis against concentration on a log scale. Your top standards will plateau. That is expected and reflects saturation of available binding. Your lower standards should give a clean linear region where doubling the concentration approximately doubles the signal. Your blank wells should read below 0.1 OD4 to 50. Background at or above 0.1 indicates incomplete blocking, insufficient washing, or substrate contamination.
If your top 2 standards are indistinguishable and your bottom 2 are indistinguishable, your detection window has compressed. Either your standard range is too wide, or your assay sensitivity is insufficient at the low end. Narrow the standard range, add more dilution points in the linear region, and rerun.
Use a 4-parameter logistic fit, 4PL, for curve fitting, not linear regression. The sigmoidal shape of ELISA standard curves cannot be accurately described by a straight line across the full detection range. Every major plate reader software includes 4PL as a curve fitting option. If you are exporting OD values into a spreadsheet and drawing a linear trend line, You are introducing systematic error into every quantification you produce.
Coefficient of variation between your technical replicates should be below 15%. Above that, the problem is pipetting precision or plate uniformity, not the assay. Fix the hands before you fix the protocol.
CV above 15% means you run the samples again, double the reagent cost. You find out a week later you had a pipetting problem on day 1.
ELISA is the foundational quantitative immunoassay. Pregnancy tests, HIV antibody serology, food allergen screening, SARS-CoV-2 antibody surveys, all ELISA-based or derived directly from it. In research, it quantifies cytokines, growth factors, antibody titers, pharmacokinetic drug levels in serum, and biomarkers across every disease area. Its clinical adoption persists because it is sensitive, scalable, and plate format. 96 samples simultaneously, fully automatable, with a readout that any spectrophotometer can produce.
The reason ELISA has held up for 50+ years is the enzymatic amplification step. One HRP molecule turns over thousands of TMB molecules per minute. You can detect proteins at picogram per milliliter concentrations with standard reagents. That is signal amplification through catalysis, not through expensive instrumentation. The enzyme is doing the heavy lifting. Everything else is just keeping the stack clean.
Automated ELISA platforms in clinical diagnostics run thousands of samples per day. Same 4-layer principle. The margin is entirely in throughput. Understanding the manual version is what lets you troubleshoot the automated version when it produces zeros.
It is mildly impressive that a technique described in 1971 remains the first choice method for protein quantification in 2026.
Since we're already doing antibody titer work, I've been running titration ELISAs out of the shed. Immunized 4 rabbits with a recombinant antigen I synthesized myself earlier this year. No institutional approval. Fully off-grid.
I've run 37 plates so far. The teeter is increasing.
37 plates.
Third bleed, polyclonal, high background but strong signal.
It is mildly unregulated.
Closing tip, since we're here. Before you run a single sample plate, optimize your secondary antibody concentration. Start with a dilution series, 1 in 500 down to 1 in 8,000. Run it once. Find the dilution that gives you the widest linear range with the lowest blank OD. Write it in the protocol. Use it forever. That single optimization run prevents months of unexplained interplate variation. What you know now, ELISA is a stack. Every layer depends on the one beneath it. The antibody species chain, the blocking chemistry, the wash stringency, the substrate timing, one mismatch anywhere, and you get zeros on a perfectly executed assay. Understand the stack and you understand why it fails.